Welcome to NCBA's Cattleman's Call podcast with host Lane Nordland.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Cattleman's Call podcast. Lane Nordland with you here today, and we are in downtown Kansas City, Missouri, or Missouri. Wait, what do you say there?
I vote Missouri.
Missouri.
Yes.
I say Missouri too. But
We could be wrong, but we don't live here.
I feel so close to Missouri being from Montana. I know
You've got
it's
a
long ways
river.
away in a river, but it's also, when we're looking at the alphabetical order.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a
you know,
simplistic
that's-
view. I think the
yeah.
river connection is more solid, Lane.
What river is that? No, exactly. It starts in Montana.
True.
And obviously, you got to have a little Montana. Everyone knows about Montana nowadays.
Well, television has helped a great deal.
And I've never watched Yellowstone. I watched one episode, so everyone is always asking me about it, but I don't know too much about it. So,
I think it's a better topic to avoid.
but hey, Paul Dykstra joins us here today with Certified Angus Beef. How you doing, Paul?
Doing great.
We're here at Angus Convention, taking a few minutes away from all the activities that are going on, all the conversations out at the water cooler. But happy to have you join the podcast again. We had you on a few years ago when you were actually on the Young Cattlemen's Conference.
That's right. Been a couple of years. Enjoyed that and happy to be back with you today, Lane.
So, Paul, let's talk about your role with CAB and how you observe the markets, how you observe beef demand, tracking trends in beef quality. Let's just share your work as a Renaissance man in the cattle industry. Is that a good description?
I appreciate that. I've not been called that ever before. It's a great day. Thanks, Lane. Yeah, Renaissance man for sure. No, I think we could summarize my role a bit simplistically by just saying that I'm kind of the conduit between the end product market and the producer. And that's a very boiled down description, but I do provide market analysis and commentary both for our internal staff and as well to the public through my biweekly newsletter, the CAB Insider, that folks can sign up for at no cost, if you don't mind that plug right out of the gate, Lane. But through that and lots of speaking engagements, traveling around the country, being involved in different cattlemen seminars, meetings, tours, and one-on-one consultation with just about any sector of the business that happens to give me a call and talk about what the trends are in the beef market.
Now, the trends we've seen, especially, say, over the last 2 decades, has been a shift in the beef that we are grading and the quality. What changes have you seen and tracked and looking back at past data in terms of that prime, the choice, the select? And I always find it interesting when I'm reading the choice and select prices every day on our market reports too, and just how few some of those boxes actually look. But what has that been like for you and just seeing the quality of cattle improve over the years?
It's been a real revolution in the beef business over the last 15, 20 years. And that's been the period of time that I've been fortunate enough to work for Certified Angus Beef. So it's been a real gratifying experience to be involved in this business where our fed cattle supply here in the U.S. has improved monumentally in that period. We had a modern day low in quality grade achievement in 2006. Where we really needed to take a look in the mirror as an industry and figure out how to go forward with a product that frankly wasn't very popular with the consumer at that point in time. And thankfully that did happen, and we started to ratchet up genetics and management to match up with a higher quality eating experience, particularly through higher marbling achievement, and fortunately for our brand, continued increases in the share of carcasses that are meeting our brand specifications. So from 2006 through present, we've seen hand over fist improvement, Lane, in the share of first of all choice that began to grow at that period and push out those select carcasses. And it's not so many years ago, 20 plus, but that the select grade was about half of our total product volume in the U.S. for fed cattle. That's progressed today to a scenario where choice and prime occupy about 84% of that fed cattle product mix. And amazingly enough, this stat will possibly surprise you, Lane. In 2025, we had 8 weeks in a row where USDA prime was a larger percentage of our carcass production than USDA select. And that's just really hard to get your arms around. If you were selling carcasses in the year 2006, it's a stark contrast.
So, what are those influential factors that are driving 8 weeks of that, and overall the trends that we are seeing in? I mean, obviously we've seen that reduction in our herds too. We kept our best cows. It's something I think of right away too, because we've put good genetics into our herds over this time, put a focus on quality carcasses as well. What is, from your perspective, looking at this every day? What are some of those factors that you want to share with producers?
Since we're speaking from the Angus convention, I would be in big trouble if I didn't mention the genetic component. And I can obviously just say that and be very honest that genetics have been a huge driver, and not only in Angus cattle, but especially in Angus cattle, where first of all the breed has had pretty widespread acceptance. That's continued to grow over the years, but more specifically, your seed stock sector, choosing genetics that have more marbling potential and focusing on those downstream carcass traits that are important to the end user. So genetics were the beginning, and just I think rising tide would be a good description of not only the Angus breed, but our industry's paid more attention to that marbling. But then we've got ever-increasing carcass weights as a trend. No single individual has driven that. It's been the economics of the industry to continue to see carcass weights increase about 5-6 pounds on an annual basis. And with that, we've seen increasing days on feed on average in the feedlot sector. So as we have more days on feed of a high energy ration, we have more marbling achievement in each individual carcass on average. So that's helped as well. And then the onset of feeding of dried distillers grains in the early 2000s has been a big improvement to cattle feeding. And finally, the technologies that we're using in the feed yard for growth have become more refined as time has passed, and more friendly to marbling, fortunately, as we also achieve a higher efficiency through use of those technologies.
What is the average carcass weight right now going through most of these facilities?
We'll be at about 915 pounds if we do a weighted average steers and heifers. I think since we don't have government data today, we don't know the recent figures. We typically top out in the month of November on an annual basis. And steers may eclipse 970 pounds on average if they spike as they have in recent years in November. So pretty large product at this point in time.
Now, obviously, when we look at that corn crop too, and just other commodities that can be fed in the feedlots, corn is plentiful right now too. What's it been like tracking that corn price too? I mean, in the cattle industry, we're enjoying these prices too, but our friends in the corn industry have been going through it here as of late too. How important is it to track these commodities, not only in the U.S. but on a global level, and just how the commodity market impacts our feed input costs too?
Yeah, that corn is clearly the number one, and the percentage of a ration that consists of corn or a corn byproduct is far and away the largest piece. So it has been a perfect storm for the beef sector. Unfortunate for our farming friends and those that are diversified in their ag production that are raising corn and facing some tough prices. But we've got cost of gains in that $1.05 per pound area, and of course with fed cattle prices, I think today we're at $230 to $235 last week in the fed trade. That's a pretty good swap, and that cost of gain has encouraged more days on feed and heavier outweights.
So when we're looking at the quality of beef that are coming out of all these current hand situations that we are seeing in feedlot, how do we track this to what could happen in the coming years? How should, say, a cow-calf producer pay attention to these trends and the quality of cattle that they are buying, just in case, when feed prices change or when the size of the herd rebuilds down the road? How do these factors that you watch every day, how important is it to keep top of mind and to stay on top of key information like this and not just focus on raising a calf?
Of course, you're speaking my language now, Lane. I think it's very important for a commercial cow-calf producer to pay attention to the downstream customer, and I mean all the way down to the consumer. Of course, the feed yard's the first customer from a cow-calf perspective, and it's just key that those ranchers in that sector understand the profit and loss factors of the feed yard. What are the elements that move the needle when it comes to profitability? And that'll be both your feed yard performance, your health at the most basic level, and of course then on down the line with your carcass quality, and what are the premiums and discounts looking like that the packer is sending back up through the supply chain. At the same time, when we're ranching, we've got to create a cow herd that functions for us first, and the functionality there undoubtedly is the most important thing. So we've got to keep our eyes open downstream while being intensely focused on what we're producing there at the home place.
Can we continue to keep up on the consumer demand? Obviously, we're producing the more quality beef right now. How important is it to continue to produce high quality beef when the herd does rebuild? Because producers are obviously wanting that same high quality eating experience. Is that a bad question, or is that a pie in the sky question?
No, I'm happy to field it because my thoughts are pretty clear, and I tend to wear them on my sleeve, where the market signals are very clear. It's not an argument. It's a dollars and cents discussion about where does the incentive come from today, and it's in the quality end of that end product market. When I mean quality, I'm talking about a highly marbled, tender, juicy eating experience that comes from carcasses that grade, in that upper 2/3 choice, which would be our entry point for the Certified Angus Beef brand, and also up into prime, of course. And the dollars and cents passed back today are actually increasing this year compared to last, with a wider choice select spread and a wider prime over choice spread. Certified Angus beef carcasses in that range of $20 to $25 a hundredweight over commodity choice. And those signals are priced into these grids that packers are offering to feed yards. And there's no setting in which I'm aware of today, Lane, where carcasses unlike those are preferred by any packer. There are no opposing forces to my mind in that pricing structure. We've got to keep an eye on yield and of course your yield grade scenario and the premiums and discounts there, but it's pretty clear in the pricing, what the goal is for producers. So moving forward, I don't see any reason to turn back from that.
And today, with all the technology that feedlots have, and then the processing has too, why should a cow-calf producer consider reaching out to the feeder and getting back that carcass data as well, and looking at the beef that they are producing at the end of the day that consumers can enjoy? Do you think some producers are scared about what the results could be, and that they might not yield?
Undoubtedly, some could be fearful.
Well, I guess have you had an example where you've talked with a commercial producer that did receive results that they didn't like and worked to improve that yield, and at the end of the day, it does change their price outlook too? I guess, do you have any experiences like that?
Sure, yeah, I have examples from many years ago where results were less than favorable, and perhaps the rancher was disappointed in what they suspected they were raising, and also made some adjustments on their bull battery and some of the traits that they were keying in on, and slowly made that progress over time. Nothing drastic or dramatic in terms of change, but just leaning in the right direction can help over a couple of generations of those females in the herd. So I've seen those for sure. As well, I think this brings to mind the idea that also some ranchers don't understand what actual exemplary performance looks like. When we talk about cattle that'll go 80% choice, well, today that's no big shakes. Mm-hmm. And 90+% either. We need to be talking about, just because the bar's been raised, the genetics are there to do much better, we need to be worrying about where's that percent prime number, how many CAB carcasses in our case with these Angus type cattle are we creating, and pushing that end of the quality where USDA choice is pretty ubiquitous in the market. So it's Yeah, the game must be escalated as we've pushed on quality and improved the entire mix.
And so, obviously, sticking in the Angus realm, since that is CAB, and we are here at the Angus Convention, how important is it, though, for a commercial producer to work closely with a seed stock producer, not just show up and buy a bull once a year? And again, that relationship goes both ways, but when we're trying to get to a place where you're raising cattle that are fit for the environment that you ranch into, but are looking to improve, the maternal ability, have longevity, and then everything that you want in a cow, but also have that end result in that calf having a high yield. Why is that so important for both the commercial and the seed stock producer to work together, or for that commercial guy to go look at other operations too, maybe not just right down the road?
Yeah, well, your previous question focused on should the commercial cow-calf producer look downstream to the feed yard, and yes, they should. By the way, that my point was they should seek that data if they can possibly do so. Find out what you're producing, and then that applies too to the seed stock producer, where hopefully they are raising cattle that are in the right package and creating the right product, but both parties at the seed stock and commercial sector need to be, I think, hand in hand, eyes wide open about what do we know about the downstream product and what's being done about it upstream, and what kind of proof do you have, and how much focus and emphasis have you been putting on traits of importance to that particular customer. And sometimes it does mean going a little bit farther away than just down the road, finding genetics that do suit you. And of course, we understand, Lane, lots of ranchers have lots of different needs, and there's a bull out there for everybody. Is kind of my running statement, that there's no one answer for everyone. But
what? There's not just, you can't just go buy exactly what you need, and it's that easy.
Apparently, as well, single trait focus is also not healthy out there in the business, right, Lane? So let's make no mistake, there are lots of needs that ranchers have out of a bull. And it may be such that you need to go looking a little bit to find a seed stock provider that has the same focus and intent as you do. So that's the fun and the challenge of buying bulls.
Well, and you raise cattle too. Like, we know there's give and take and everything, and we're just striving again just to raise the best quality cattle we can that are going to have the top beef that we can within our environments too. But that also circles back to the question, with select cuts. So, I mean, those are obviously, they're leaner, they're not as highly marbled, there's not as much fat. Is that a concern for the supply chain, that we're maybe producing too much high quality meat when we're looking at the select conversation, especially for food service demand that doesn't need a prime, beef to come through just to get into the local school system, or a restaurant that doesn't serve that high end cut?
Well, that's a point that should be focused on a bit. There are certainly some customers, whether it be an individual consumer or maybe even an outlet, like you say, that would be more suited for a leaner product, no doubt. And of course, our consumption of ground beef as the country demands a whole lot of lean. We typically get that from those cull cows, et cetera. But I think it's been easier to quench the demand for those leaner cuts with smaller volume as of late, because we have more customers that are realizing that, hey, I like a highly marbled piece of beef. And I also understand that the healthfulness and nutritional drivers here really lean toward that now. We've had that education as a society since the 80s, when the war on fat was prevalent. Now we understand that, of course, beef is very good for you, and fat is also good for you and does not make you fat. And that's just been a very tough learning curve for a consuming public that has a very short attention span. So I think that's the right direction, and I think we can produce quite a bit, enough select and leaner cuts on accident to not focus too much on it.
I like how you put that. So when we look at the prime aspect of things, has there ever been a time when prime grading has outpaced the consumer or food service demand?
I would imagine there have been points in the last 5-6 years that happened. And the reason I say that is not because I believe demand is too low for prime. It's very, very high today. And also our production of prime is near record high today in total volume. But we've adjusted the entire marketplace since about 2015, when the share of prime carcasses really ratcheted up from what was historically about 2 to 3% of total. Then it was up to 5 and 7 and 9, and today we're at about 12% prime. But a lot of that's happened in the last 5 to 7 years. So the market had to adjust to a mix of product that it hadn't been used to absorbing. And when I say that, I mean specifically your retail grocery store level, where they traditionally never would have featured prime in their meat case. But with the onset of a higher volume, I'm talking about more than 3 times the volume in growth in that period, companies like Costco would be the best example. A very large retailer that sells a lot of beef actually moved toward specifically purchasing prime for their customers. And they found that, hey, they liked it, and it helped drive customers into their stores, and they could also purchase it 52 weeks out of the year because there was enough volume. So in this period, to make a long answer shorter, Lane, there surely have been some months or some seasons in that period where the price maybe didn't indicate huge demand, but we continue to educate customers on prime. And for us, Certified Angus Beef brand prime is our largest growth opportunity, both last year and moving forward.
And so when we look at 2025 and the demand for CAB beef, we know the demand for beef across the board was high, but what were some of the records that were achieved for CAB in 2025?
Well, let's see. We would have had a record sales year of Certified Angus Beef Prime, as a matter of fact. So you led me right to water on that one, Lane.
I didn't even mean to.
Yeah, that was great. And, well, that was led actually by a 20% increase in the international division in terms of those prime carcass, that prime carcass product sales. So that one flies a bit in the face of what we understand about exports today, right, in the U.S. Yep. But even despite a tougher year in exports, we saw that increase in that prime. So that was great there, and I think that's probably the crown achievement. You know, this is our third largest year in total sales volume. We just wrapped up the fiscal books on, so I can't say a record, but awfully good. Yep. in a situation that is constrained a bit by headcount, right? Even though we have heavier carcasses, there are lots of weeks that our total tonnage of production is below last year for sure. So the records were a little harder to come by, but I would say we hung right in there and had a really solid year. And by we, I mean our downstream partners down through the supply chain.
How was your guys' feeding quality forum this year? I was not able to attend, but was able to go through some of the media files and highlight some of those speakers, whether it was on the seedstock end or the feeder end. We can give a pitch for the 2026. I don't know the dates on that, but why is it important for the feedlot, the cow-calf guy, and the seedstock producer to come together and learn all the time? Not just stay in our own little corners of production, but learn about how important efficiency is and genetics and how they can come together to make sure everyone is making a profit and there are premiums in the business.
Yeah, Lane, we've tried to design that feeding quality forum just as you described, that a feeder can come to it, a cow-calf producer and seedstock producers. Any of those folks can attend and take away something that perhaps isn't even from their immediate business, but kind of make it a little well-rounded. Of course, originally the foundation being focused on feed yards, but it's become a little bit more broad than that. And I suppose I'm a bit biased, but I think folks have accepted that program very well, and they seem to want to return and take in the content. It's been real gratifying to see that. It's grown. This last one was in Minnesota, a little smaller attendance just due to the regionality. Last year we had well over 200 folks in Dodge City, Kansas. Just a tremendous turnout. And as you said, the goal being that we we share the important factors from production, science, economic things up and down the chain, and try to get folks exposed to experts, not only scientists and economists, but folks that are in the business of raising cattle. And it's been real fun to watch it grow and gain traction in the last few years.
And what makes you bullish about the cattle business right now? Obviously, we cow-calf guys receive very important and well-deserved checks this year for their hard work. But what makes you bullish about the future of the industry?
Well, that's the first one, because if we don't incentivize the rancher to keep ranching, we're finished. And so that's very important. But the bigger picture is that the size of the pie has grown so that everybody gets a piece that's actually going to keep them in business. Now, granted, our sectors are not always all profitable, and we know that. There are leverage shifts. Today, the feed yard and the cow-calf operator definitely have the leverage, and it's been going great. Downstream, maybe not as great, but we all get a turn, or at least lately that's been the case. But the fact that there's enough total dollars to spread across all the sectors and pay for what have been increasing input costs and still have revenue left, net revenue left, that we can take home and put that in the bank and pay some bills at the house. That's got me excited. And lots of us came up in a period of time where that wasn't the case. So it looks like the beef business is going to be viable instead of a last best option for folks out in the country.
I did a podcast the other day with my friend Jake Fettis. He's a rancher. He's a Red Angus, actually, producer. Yeah. And he was repping Superior calves there, just a mile down from our house there at the little community stockyards. And the way he put it, for young people to get a start or go out on their own, they're going to have non-conventional ways to be successful. What are some non-conventional ways that you think folks getting a start in the business or going out on their own, or maybe starting with one cow?
Yeah.
What are ways people can be non-conventional and be trying to be successful and make a go of it?
Well, I bet Jake's thought more about it than I have, but I would jump to the one that seems the most obvious to me, and that is what is the one thing that ranchers that are well established are lacking? Labor. So what can a young person provide? Labor. As a result, there's got to be a number of different ways that those two parties can arrange it such that the younger of the two can get established, and with some preferential treatment from that other established older producer that needs the labor. And I don't think that's impossible at all. Granted, there's a lot of capital involved in these ranches today, in land ownership, cattle ownership, equipment, you name it. They're all very, very large investments. But the need for labor and dedicated commitment in labor that wants to act like a manager, I think there's the world's wide open to those folks.
That's some good insight there, because it's something we talk about every day, both those issues. And it's tough though, separating. Well, they're not from our family, but for us to be successful, because how many third, fourth generation people raised on a ranch aren't involved in ranching anymore?
A lot.
And then they get sold off.
And as well as land transfers hands out of a traditional family ranch into another investor type, as we might coin them, person. They need management for that land.
Yep.
They enjoy the ownership. Maybe it's a good safe haven for cash. They need some management for someone to reap some revenue off of that land, and that's not a trend that's probably turning around, that transfer. So again, opportunity for youth, enthusiasm, commitment, and a want to. Yep. I think that's the exciting piece of that.
Well, Paul, I know it's a busy day for you and the CAB crew at Angus Convention. Any last thoughts before I let you? I think you're actually missing the lunch, maybe not, but before I let you go hit the lunch line.
Well, thanks for being here, Lane. I've been having a great time, and I think our colleagues and our breeders here with the Angus Convention are learning a lot. And what I'm capturing from them is continued optimism and a desire to keep this beef business rolling the right direction.
And where are we broadcasting from today?
We are in Missouri.
Missouri?
Kansas City, Missouri.
Well, again, Paul Dykstra, thanks for joining us. And for all of our friends that are watching or tuning in to the podcast here today. For more on the CAB Insider, make sure and check them out online. Subscribe to Paul's updates and insight on all things impacting the cattle end of things. And of course, make sure and subscribe to the Cattleman's Call podcast wherever you're watching or listening today's conversation. Thanks for sticking around with us here today. I'm Lane Nordlund. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to NCBA's Cattleman's Call podcast with Lane Nordlund. For more information, visit ncba.org and make sure to subscribe to the podcast today.